Hello again, everybody. This is Ken Allison, and this is mostly sports talk, and this is the second program of the week as we've added a high school program. We did a college program that's up on Spreaker.com right now, and today, as we have been doing in the past, Lake Morris, who is the prep reporter for the Anderson Independent Mail, is here, and we're going to talk some prep football. We'll kind of give a quick recap of last week. Couple of kind of surprises to me, not total upsets, but a little bit surprising. And then we'll maybe discuss the upcoming games. But you had something else you want to start off with, didn't you?
Yeah, this week is the second full week where the SC Media press poll came out, top 10 for each classification. And we had kind of a surprise here in 4A. Westside did not make it into the poll this week, even after they beat number 10 Lexington this past Friday.
And beat them down. Well, it was not Lexington's home, but beat them handily.
Yes, it was. It was.
Although Lexington didn't have their first-string quarterback.
No, but that still should not be held against Westside, in my opinion.
That's right.
If you beat the number 10 team, you should probably be the number 10 team. But they got leapfrogged by Goose Creek, and there's probably a little bit of name recognition there.
That's historical.
But, again, I had another fan ask me on Twitter, what does Westside have to do to get ranked? And my simple response is just keep winning.
Keep winning.
If you keep winning, you'll eventually get in the poll. And, honestly, the only thing that matters at the end of the season is where you end it.
You have it with you?
Yes, it's right here.
Yeah, go right down through it, and let's talk just quickly about some of it.
Well, like I said, in Class 4A, Spartanburg is still the number one team in the state. In 4A.
They kind of showed out in Florida.
They beat a team called Wakulla, which I've heard that name mispronounced many times on many different broadcasts. It's Wakulla, Florida. They handled them pretty well, and that was a pretty big team out of the Florida area.
Yeah.
Number 1 in 3A is South Point, out over in the Rock Hill area. Number 1 in 2A, no surprise there, Dillon. They've won the past few state titles, and they look like they're in line to win another one. Shakeup, even though we don't have any teams in this classification, came in single A. Christ Church had their 50-some game winning streak snapped by Abbeville. I
want to talk about that for just a moment. Now, Abbeville is a 2A school.
Yes.
No, they were ranked, I believe.
They were number 3, and now they are number 2 this week.
Christchurch are 1A school, and if anybody, the 1 and 2s are probably suffering from the 8-quarter rule already.
Yes, they are.
At the second week. And but Christchurch did, after all this time, but now for people who don't know, historically, Abbeville is nobody's patsy.
No.
They have won several state championships, and historically, they've been a tough out for everybody.
Yes, when I was a freelancer for Anderson about 5 or 6 years ago, they sent me to Abbeville a bunch, and that team was amazing. They ran over everybody, and they've been doing it under Jamie Nichols for years down there, running that same double wing option offense, and no one seems to be able to stop them except Dillon.
Yeah. Prior to that, a guy named Tommy Height was the coach down there for 100 years. I don't know if his son's the head coach or not, but Height was the head coach down there for many, many years, and they were just tough. They were Class A then, and they'd come up here and play, like Old Boys High and maybe Hannah and some of those, and give them a hard time.
Yeah, and he must be a good coach because the stadium's named after him down there now.
Yeah,
so.
I knew him. He's a good guy. Go ahead.
But now the new number 1 team in Class A this week is McBee. I've never been there. I could not find it on a map for you. Maybe you know where it is.
I know maybe sort of on a map I can find it, but it's almost not there.
Yeah.
It is. McBee is, it's kind of like maybe Iva. Size-wise, maybe slightly larger than that.
But I guess to finish out our talk on the polls this week, in 3A, BHP is ranked number 5 coming into this week, and they have a big matchup against Westside, which we can preview in a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit out of the area, Seneca comes in ranked number 6 after soundly beating the Greenville team last week, and Wren also gets in at number 9 this week after they got a win last week as well. And then in 2A, Pendleton is coming in at number 7. For anyone that may be now in the Star Iva area though, Crescent did receive votes in the Class 2A poll, but they did not get quite enough to get into the top 10 this week.
I think that has to do probably with the quality of the opponent they have played each week.
That is definitely the reason.
Yeah.
You're not getting in the poll after beating Dixie. No disrespect to Dixie, but Crescent's beaten them 10 years in a row.
Yeah.
They have another game this week. If they win against this week's opponents, which we will preview, I still don't think they're going to get in.
Okay.
But that's really all we have on the polls this week, and I'll, like I said, I'm a voting member of this, and I will let everyone know.
I used to be many thousand years ago, yeah.
And full disclosure, I had Westside number 8 in my 4A poll.
Okay.
So we'll see if the rest of the state catches on to what I'm seeing up here.
We're liable to bounce around a little bit as we do this program today, Lake, because there, as you say things, it makes me think of other things to talk about. I wouldn't mind talking a little bit about individual performances.
Sure.
The quarterback, the tailback at Westside must have had a fine day.
Yes, he did. Quinn Smith, I'm a little bit off on his numbers right now.
160 yards, I think, thereabout.
Yeah, he had a day down there at Lexington. And if you give me a second, I can actually pull up. I'm trying to keep stats on all our players this year offensively, what they're doing cumulatively through this season. That's a hard word to say on the radio.
Yeah, it is.
Sometimes.
That's easy for you to say.
But in 2 games, Quinn Wright has rushed 49 times, 249 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Not bad at all for 2 games of work.
That's right.
And that actually has him number 3 in our coverage area of all rushers. Right?
Who are the other guys?
The number 1 rusher right now is D.D. Hall out of Crescent. 29 carries, 340 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He had a day against Dixie this past Friday.
Yeah.
And, of course, number 2, last year's top rusher is Braxton Gambrell Jr. out of Seneca. 22 carries, 312 yards, and 3 touchdowns in 1 game.
Okay. So, also then, talk about the quarterbacks around here. We have a lot of good quarterbacks come out of this area.
This year we have a few. Of course, Jackson Williamson at Westside right now is the top area passer. Fun note, he is completing close to 83% of his passes.
That's unreal, isn't it? Now, he's got a couple of big guys.
He does. He brings size, speed, and he can catch just about anything I've seen thrown to him so far. So
the hands do count.
Yes, he does. A surprise to me was last week with Alex Meredith at Hannah. The freshman quarterback in 1 game is now the number 2 passer in the area. 16 of 26 for an interception. That's a 62% completion percentage roughly. 282 yards and 3 touchdowns in his first game in varsity action.
As a 9th grader now, think about that, folks. He's about 5'10" or 11.
Yeah, he's about 5'11". I'd say about 160 pounds.
A lot of growing he can do yet.
Yes, he does. I would expect him to grow a few inches in the next 2 years. Had some mistakes against Burns, but that was expected for a 16-year-old. Threw the ball very well at times.
One of the great things about this for Hannah is they got behind. They got down badly.
Yes, they did.
And they did not quit.
Yeah, they got down 21-0 in this first quarter. And I'm sitting there in the press box thinking we may have us a blowout here.
Yeah.
Second quarter, things start to change a little bit for Hannah. They get some points. They hit some big plays. And they were able to get back into the game at that half. And it was down to a 1-possession game at one point, and you thought Hannah was about to make a play and maybe take a lead.
Yeah.
They just weren't able to get that last play, and Burns was able to make a few plays in a 42-21 victory, but it was a lot closer than that scoreboard indicated, I think.
Okay, I'm going to get philosophical for a moment. I'm thinking some of that has to do with culture.
Yes.
A winning culture at Burns and about an 8 or 9 year 4 winning seasons in 20-something years at Hannah or something.
It's
been a losing culture from what used to be a mighty program.
Yes.
And so I think what you're talking about is they couldn't quite turn that corner. Has to do with confidence and culture.
It does, and it was an electric environment down there. They were opening a brand new renovated field, brand new scoreboard on Frazier Field. The stands were packed. It was a great high school environment, and they just weren't able to pull out a win against a quality program. But I do see a lot more wins coming for Hannah this year, especially if they're able to continue playing the way they did against Burns.
They'll get a good test this week. Speaking of the festivities at Hannah, Coach Jim Frazier, who was at Hannah for 16 years and who is a Hall of Famer, and they named the field after him some years ago, not the stadium, but the field, and he was flipping the coin.
Yes.
And he kind of flipped it way out. He erred the ball on the throw. And I see him every day.
Yeah.
He and I, you may not know this, he and I, of course, I was working here when he came here, broadcasting games and those kind of things, but he and I teamed up on Charter Cable TV for 17 years broadcasting high school football this area. Many marriages don't last 17 years, and I tell him all the time. I said, it wore me out carrying you all the time. God, I love him like a brother. But anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in you. Frazier, he was telling me about it yesterday. I wasn't there, but he says, yeah, I flipped it off, wanted to make a pretty toss to flipped it several yards the wrong direction.
I'll be seeing Coach Frazier this Friday at the Anderson Touchdown.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, so, I'm planning to be there. We'll talk about that some too.
Yeah. But I guess finally to wrap it up on our stat leaders for receiving this year, as soon as I can get to it, it is Lucas Catafomo from Tealham, the wide receiver.
Isn't that something?
8 catches, 178 yards, and 3 touchdowns in his first game.
One game.
Number 2, Antonio Lomax, the man I was talking about.
Yeah.
11 catches, 155 yards. Has yet to catch a touchdown, but I think that'll be changing pretty soon.
Okay.
And, of course, number 3, a name I did not have in any of my previews, Delonte Simpson out of Pendleton. 5 catches, 135 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And their opener against Pickens this past Friday. So, a lot of offense this week, and I'm looking at it to continue for the rest of this season because we got some good quarterbacks in this area this year.
We're talking here on Mostly Sports Talk with Lake Morris, who reports on all kind, not high school, not just football, all the high school sports. And I'll just interject, you've been really covering some volleyball the last few weeks because you're getting some good space, man.
Oh yeah. It's like I said, I think volleyball was an underserved sport before I got here, and before I got here on my other papers, that was a priority, was covering not just volleyball, but really putting an emphasis on covering women's sports. That was something I wanted to do because I'm not sure if many listeners realize this, but those girls work just as hard as the guys. And their games are actually a lot of fun to watch once you really learn what they're doing.
Oh, they do work hard. All of them do. And speaking of working hard, I always like to say this. High school bands, well, college too. High school bands, man, they're out there in the heat all summer.
I can attest to that.
Yeah, okay. But high school bands everywhere. And we've developed the last several years really good high school bands here. Over in Spartanburg County and up in there, they've had those big old great bands for a long time. But you cannot go to a high school game without a band.
Yeah.
It's just part of it, man. It's a great thing. What'd you play?
Being a former sousaphone player.
Sousaphone?
The big marching tube.
How'd you carry that thing around?
It was the big one. It was a 50-pounder, so that was next to the drum line. Sousaphone players are probably the biggest weightlifters out there, so it was fun. I enjoyed it, and but yeah, people really don't realize the type of work that really all extracurriculars put in, even the cheerleading teams.
Oh yeah, see, that's not easy. There's a lot of doing in that. So I'm glad that you have seen fit to really make this part of the coverage of the Anderson Independent Mail in these, and I just think it's great.
And in the winter, of course, we will be picking up our wrestling coverage. That's one of my favorite sports.
Is it really?
It won't just be us covering the individual state meet. We're covering regular meets and also team playoff meets when that finally rolls around this